The election of officers. I will make a motion to select Beth as vice chair. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Do we have to roll call that vote because that now it's the new board with
Do we have
Chris?
to
Yeah.
roll call, Chris, on
Okay,
that?
there's just three of you voting.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I'll make a
Or
next,
Do you want to all vote? Actually, we should roll
Yeah,
call.
it
Let's
feels
roll
like
call for
that's
all
a new-
five.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay, roll.
I
So-
will make a motion, well, I guess you make the motion, so we'll start over.
yeah, just make a motion to elect Beth as the new vice chair.
Sure.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Well, roll
Roll
call,
call.
Yep.
Jay Mello,
Aye.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Hi, Chris. Okay.
I'll make a motion to nominate Greg Rondo as our chair.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Roll.
Greg Rondo, don't vote
Yes.
for yourself, but Jen Williams,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
and Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Okay.
And Beth.
Then I'll make a motion to elect Jen Williams as clerk. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams.
Yes. Have to vote for
I said,
Yeah.
sorry. Greg Rondo
Yes.
and Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And Beth. Did you do
And Beth
yourself?
Worley.
Sorry, that's
And
right.
Yep.
Yes. Boy, did
Okay.
really well at that one, huh?
Yeah, crushing it today.
Killed it.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
Okay, second piece of business of the general business would be the meeting dates for 2024. This will be a scheduled dates if everybody's good with it. I'm sure we'll have some adjustments once in a while, but make a motion to accept the meeting dates for 2024 for planning board moving forward. Wait a sec. All in favor?
Roll.
Jay Mello.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, do you want to start, Jen? As a
Am I
chair?
supposed to now?
Go for it.
Oh,
Okay. Roll call vote. Greg Rondo,
yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, our next item of business will be for, actually, hold on one second. Yep. And,
81P.
Yeah. This will be for the chair to sign for A and Rs, for signatures for the board for 81 Ps and A and R signatures. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call vote. Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay. Well, Amy, you want signature on this one?
I'm gonna type them all up and,
Okay.
I will need signatures at a later
Okay,
date.
good. All right. Now we'll get into business. Our first item of general business would be for a bond reduction for Country Club Estates. If somebody's here, if you want to approach the mic and give your name and address. How you doing?
Members? Hi.
Oh, Countryside Estates, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. I guess we'll go to Amy for Department of Planning first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We currently have a bond held for $54,961 for Countryside Estates, which is September and October Drive. The applicant has requested a bond reduction. Beta has been out there and submitted a list of the outstanding details and estimated prices on them. The suggested observation report from Beta is the cost to complete at $39,200.
Okay. We'll go to DPW. Mike, if you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't. I think we've met on the call. They had gone through all the inspection out there and the bond estimate.
Okay,
No issues.
thank you. Matt, you out there, Matt?
I'm out here, Mr. Chairman. Yes,
Hi.
thank you.
Good evening. Matt, if you want to just give us a run-through of the bond reduction?
Sure, absolutely. So just wanted to note that the developer has continued to complete outstanding work items, most recently completing the sidewalk, driveway, and curb along the frontage of Lot 1, performing maintenance on the stormwater basins and providing access to the stormwater basin located off of Prospect Street. The subdivision is substantially complete. There's a number of punch list items that still should be addressed, which include reconstructing the sidewalk ramp at the intersection of Prospect Street to the satisfaction of the town engineer, installing a detectable warning at the ramp located near Countryside Lane, and also removing some silt fence that remains behind stormwater basin number 2. So our bond estimate that was included, it does also have some landscape items which were previously discussed before the board, most notably the number of trees provided throughout the subdivision, as well as some of the slope treatments adjacent to the roadway where stump grindings were placed instead of loam and seed on some of the steeper slopes. I believe at the last time that this was discussed before the board, they wanted to get out and take a look at the site before making a decision on those items. But if the board were to be satisfied with the trees and slope treatment out there, the bond reduction would be down to about $4,000. And we note that we would leave it up to the board's discretion to determine the minimum amount, considering they haven't done as-built and the roadway has not been accepted by the town yet.
Okay, thank you. Can you just go back to the trees one more time?
Yes.
I know there was some,
Sure.
there's trees that were left, but it called for additional trees. Can you go back to how many trees were potentially
Yes.
listed to
So-
be planted?
Yeah, the approved plans called for a total of 56 trees throughout the development. Some street trees were planted, some trees were left in place, and some of the individual lots did pretty extensive landscaping close to the right-of-way. So I think there's a total of 32 trees that were installed out there, approximately 32. We also noted that the subdivision rules require 3 trees per lot, which would require 27 for the development. So they do exceed the minimum for the development, but it's not as many as were shown on the approved plans. So it's really at the discretion of the board of what they want to see out there.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll go to the board first. Anybody having questions or comments?
Through the chair, has anyone actually asked the homeowners if they want the trees?
I have to say to the board that Heritage Design, that did the subdivision for me in 2004, overstamped the amount of trees on the plan, and it got by me. And I thought that, I didn't think I would have to go for a subdivision modification because I just adhered to the 3 trees per lot. They put extra trees on and it got by me in 2004. So Mr. Crowley is right that the plan shows more, but what I've produced is 3 per lot. And I guess I could file for a subdivision modification. But this is a copy of the plan, and they overstamped the trees.
Matt, are you comfortable with that? That there's sufficiently, approximately 3 trees per lot? I know, I drove through there, and Mr. Dorico did keep a lot of the trees up there, so are you comfortable with what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I've been through the subdivision a number of times. I mean, it looks well vegetated. It looks good out there. So, I mean,
Okay.
you don't take any issue with it.
Okay. Jen?
Yep, I don't have any issues with the
Yeah,
reduction in
okay.
trees as long as he's meeting what's required. from the-
No one's said anything about it? I don't think it.
Yeah. Anybody in the audience or anybody on Zoom that has any question, comment, in reference to it? No? So, go ahead.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, the northerly side of September Drive, from Prospect Street up approximately 650 feet, is a severe slope. And about 10 years ago, I chipped it with stump grindings and mulch. and it's maintained heavily, and maintained very well. There are trees growing on that side of the roadway, and that is going to be part of the deed that I give to the town of Franklin when I give the street and the infrastructure to the town.
Yep.
So it was decided by me that I would not grass it because the town wouldn't come out and just mow that, and the land is not owned by anyone.
Yeah.
So, and then going back to the mid-90s, I have pictures of Upper Cranberry in the other development that I did, which have been mulched because of the slope.
Yeah, I remember you were in before us,
So I
and
just,
we gave you the okay with the slope embankments, with the wood chips previously.
so that's why
yeah.
Matt suggested that you folks decide, visit, take a look.
Yep, I'm comfortable with what I saw, it's just me, but I don't know if you guys have seen it, and if Mike, you're comfortable with the slope easement?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's pretty well established and pretty stabilized, so there's no concerns with erosion. I think long-term, it's probably a better solution than having loam and seed that would need to be maintained. There are no houses on that side there, so
Okay.
it's reasonable.
You know, and I'll take care of the handicapped ramps in the spring when,
So you think you'll be able to wrap this up early spring?
yes,
This one's
soon,
been going
Gary
on.
and Howland will be doing the as-bills, and then we're gonna come in with the complete,
Okay.
finished.
So what's, so Matt, what would the bond be, less the trees, that we're okay with the trees, what would the bond total be?
And the slope, I
Let's
guess.
say that would be
In the
4,000.
in the slope?
Removing those would leave the bond at about 4,000. But obviously, I know the board has, previously on other subdivisions had a minimum number that they've typically kept in mind, so we defer to the board's preference on that.
As-built and bounds done?
The bounds are done.
Bounds are done, yes.
So what's an as-built worth?
That's probably in that.
What do we want to,
It depends a little bit on how much information has already been done by the surveyors out there who did it. But I think, 5,000 is pretty reasonable for the subdivision.
so leave 10,000 for a bond? So I make a motion to leave 10,000 in the bond and release from the 59 plus or minus?
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Is it?
Chris can vote on that one.
Okay. All right, roll call vote. Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay, so 10,000 left in balance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, and then, next item of general business would be for the endorsement for 122 to 138 East Central Street. Anybody have any questions or comments? This is just to sign it. We'll go to Amy really quick if you want, Amy.
Sure, thank you,
Just
Mr.
a
Chairman.
signature.
Yeah, this was approved back on October 23rd, 2023. They did add the certificate of vote to the plans for endorsement, and looking to get the plan signed off tonight.
Okay, I had one quick question. I know we spoke about the easements for it. Will that be, how's that worked out?
Yes, yes, they have, I don't have the actual documentation, but they have, we've been told they have the easements established
Okay.
for that.
So I make a motion
To endorse.
to endorse 122 to 138 East Central Street. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. A roll
Aye.
call again? Okay,
Or just us three
You can all vote.
we can all vote.
on this one? Oh, yeah, all right, my
Okay,
apologies. yeah.
roll call, Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay. We'll go to our next public hearing, which would be for Uncas Ave, which is a special permit and a site plan application. If you want to approach the mic and introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Rob Truax with GLM Engineering Consultants. So since our last meeting with you, we submitted a revised plan to you folks. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, which we rearranged the units to eliminate the common drives, making all the units face Uncas Ave. So the 3-unit building would be 3 driveways coming out on Uncas Ave for each building. We did do a drainage study, which we did some calculations. I submitted that with the town engineer as well as it went to Beta for review. We did have a traffic engineer do a brief overlook of everything and submit a summary, and I believe Beta had a chance to review that. I did just see the Beta comments. I'm just reading them for the first time. I don't know if you've had a chance to read them.
Just got them tonight, so.
Yeah, so I think with that, if everyone's seen the plan, I really don't have anything else to add this evening.
Okay.
And when we did do the drainage study, just as a note, we looked at it with the whole project being all 3-unit buildings.
Okay.
So we did an overview of that, and I submitted that with the drainage calculations so everybody could see it.
Okay, good, thank you. I guess we'll go to Amy for Department of Planning. Amy, if you could give us an overview, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Truax touched on my first comment about the board was concerned about the driveways, which they have made individual driveways and turned the building around. I think the other comment was the concern about having a turnaround at the end of the dead end if the turnaround would be constructed for emergency and delivery vehicles.
Okay. And then we'll go to Mike from Department of Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did review the drainage in that conversation with Mr. Truax. And when this project was originally designed years and years ago, it was originally a much bigger project, and the one that got approved was much smaller. Even with this increase in impervious area going from duplexes to triplexes, they're still under the original design for the drainage system that's out there. So we reviewed it and we discussed it, and it's big enough to handle any increase based on their current proposal.
Okay, good, thank you. And then we'll go to Matt. You're out there for,
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
please?
So I think as already stated, there were kind of two major concerns from the board during the initial hearing. One was the common driveway, which has been eliminated. The only thing that we noted for consideration, it's certainly not part of the bylaw, but we noted that two of the driveways are sort of directly abut each other. So it may be worth it to consider providing a small separation, if possible, between them, just to better define, parking rights and such between the units. But that would be up to the designer. The other issue that the board brought up was some concerns with the traffic out there. So what we did is just a very basic summary table for the board's consideration, just showing the number of total trips throughout the day, as well as the number of trips in the AM and PM peak hours on what was approved versus what we're showing now, which is converting two of the two lot units to 3-lot units, or three unit lots. So what was approved was 121 trips per day. That gets bumped up to about 135 trips per day, so only 14 more trips per day total. And that only results in one additional trip in the AM and the PM peak hours. So really negligible impacts to any traffic out there. As Mike Maglio noted, he performed the detailed review of the stormwater. We did start to take a look at that, but since he was already working with the proponent, we defer to him on the review.
Okay, good, thank you. I'll go to the board first. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I think just having an opportunity to review the additional information that was given to us would be helpful.
I want Beta to, that's why I'm asking, yeah. Matt, we just got information from the applicant tonight on some traffic study work, so I want to make sure you guys can review it to make sure there's no issues.
Okay.
And maybe you can get with the applicant just to confirm the driveways, make sure the driveways are situated so there's enough space between them as well. I know you separate them, but just give a little bit more. And I would definitely pursue looking at a cul-de-sac of some sort at the end for turnaround in this due process, if you could, at some point.
So I think, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the cul-de-sac issue was with the common drives. We have a cul-de-sac for the road.
Okay, all right, that's
Yeah,
right.
I think
'Cause it
that's
was,
a little
yes,
confusion.
correct,
It was for the
okay.
common drive, so we
My
eliminated
apologies.
that.
Yep, okay, no, you're right. So actually, I'm gonna go to the audience. If anybody in the audience, if you have something, just approach the mic and give your name and address, please.
So I have a few things. My name's Donna Paradise. I live at 9 Cook Street. I'm on our property abuts the Uncas on the east side of the development. Last meeting, I just want to cover this because last meeting they said there was no blasting, but it's off Ledge Street. Of course there's blasting. The locations of the obvious ledge are actually on the drawings. There's several large piles of blasting rubble up there. Can't miss it. Back in the day when the blasting happened, I talked to the blaster multiple times while he was placing his seismic reading equipment in our yard because, according to him, we were the closest abutter. We became familiar faces. Last time I saw him, he said this might be the last time he'd be around for a while, but they'd definitely be back for more blasting when the houses were starting to take shape, whatever that. The application also states that no homes are within sight or accessible from the Uncas Avenue Extension cul-de-sac, but when I walk up there, I can see my own house as well as 2 of my neighbors on the east side. When we moved in 1990, it was a neighborhood of mostly smaller homes built in the 50s and 60s, and the lot behind us where the new development is was woods. Probably 15 years in, the development was approved for a mix of single and duplex units for 55 and older. Although, of course, we hated to lose the woods, things change. They'd be owner-occupied, attractive units, 55-plus-year-old residents. Not so bad, right? Somewhere along the way, it all got approved for duplexes. Now they're asking for triplexes, not senior living any longer. I'm really concerned for our neighborhood. We are already a cut-through to avoid the traffic light at King and Chestnut. My GPS has actually instructed me while driving on Route 140 towards a Rhode Island destination to cut through my own neighborhood. Although I understand these applications get approved independently, first we got 104 units, Taj units near Big Y. Then 30-something more Taj units across from Honeydew. Now there are 27 more units on your agenda. Each one of these will absolutely impact our neighborhood with traffic. In this case, turning either way onto 140 from Uncas is a challenge with the traffic light so close. You can't see people coming around the corner. There's a right on red. You can't see people coming. You can't take a left because there's only 50, 70 feet to the traffic light. Either way is a danger. I'd have to assume that many drivers will try to avoid that and will come through our neighborhood again. I understand it's hard to judge right now because Taj 1 isn't completely rented and occupied. Taj 2 isn't even built yet. But our neighborhood of 30 or 40 houses will now have the traffic that accompanies multi-story apartment buildings on 3 of its edges. There are drastic changes, and how much does one neighborhood have to bear? Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody in Zoom? No? Okay. Well, we're going to continue this.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Whoops,
ask a
sorry.
quick question?
Sure.
And just a quick review of the traffic information provided by Kinley Horn. It doesn't seem as though it really takes into account any of the other developments that this woman just mentioned, unless I'm missing it, but, and then Beta, your analysis quickly is based on the simplicity of just being the Uncas development. Again, not taking into consideration any of the developments that are in the area. So I just want to make sure if we are asking this applicant for traffic and we want to make sure that we are aware of how it's going to impact the street as a project with everything else around, which we do for other developments, that we have exactly what we need, and if we continue it, whatever we're requesting is submitted well in advance for enough notice to review it, because it doesn't seem like it's a complete report to me.
Okay. And we didn't get a chance to read it, so I
So,
apologize.
I'm sorry, but
Scott.
we thought the intention was we were only looking at going from the 18 units to 27 and how much impact that would have just as from a growth standpoint. We weren't looking to do, we didn't think we were obligated to do a full-blown traffic study of the whole area again. You know, we did one back when they approved the subdivision. So we were just having the traffic engineer do a summary of this 9-unit increase and what the effects of that were.
I guess
So-
my question through the chair would be then, remind
We
me
want-
what year this was originally approved, when you did the original traffic study?
Originally, the project got approved for an over 55, which was 20, I'm gonna say 22, it was either 22 or 24 units, I can't recall exactly.
And what year was that?
That was 2008-ish.
Okay.
And then it was appealed, and then it got changed, and we went to the regular subdivision with the 2-unit buildings, which brought it down to 18 normal units. So and that was, I think, 2014. So that's
Yeah, I guess my
when
point.
it was all done.
Yeah, my point is that, I mean, you're asking the board to do a modification to increase to triplexes based on a traffic study that was done in 2014 or 2008, whatever you just said. But it's not taking into consideration that there's been a whole lot that's happened in that area since your original approval. So if we're modifying it to increase the units, even though just a few, I feel,
Make a
it's just my
difference.
opinion, it's gonna make a difference that everything else is considered, considering that it's been quite a while since the last original traffic
Can we
study was
ask
done.
Beta to look at what was submitted and then see if there's additional information that he would need to make a sound decision on giving you?
Yeah,
an
we
opinion?
just want to make sure you calculate the adjoining properties
All right, so
of
they
the
didn't
new
do-
buildings that are being built in the general area, just to make sure we're doing due diligence. Correct.
Okay.
Matt, you okay with that?
I mean, it does sound like the board is asking for a full traffic study, if you're accounting for all the developments in the area. You know, it's very quick to determine the number of additional trips from the development, but if you're looking at impacts to the overall roadways and signals and other developments, you know, I think that's more involved than what is currently being presented.
I mean, I'm one person on the board, but
Yeah, no, I-
for
I
all
w-
of you to say what you think.
I myself, I would like to see a full one, just to accommodate all the additional buildings that are being built in the general area, so that way there we don't have a problem in that area. We always, I mean, it doesn't matter where you drive on 140.
I think maybe if the applicant can work with Beta to figure out what it is that we need to supplement to make sure we have a full picture.
Correct. Yep, yep. Good with that?
We'll have the traffic engineer reach out to Beta
Okay,
and Matt.
all right. Amy, you good with that? Okay. Matt, you good with that?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay, good. All right, so, based on getting some of the late information, and we're gonna continue this anyway, so I'd make a motion to continue to now. I'm gonna take into consideration, what do we have?
With the December 18th to give them time to work on that.
That give you enough time? We can always bump it if we have to.
Oh.
If you're not,
Let's let the traffic, we'll go
Yeah.
with the 18th, and then
Okay.
we'll have the traffic engineer speak with Beta,
and then
I
we
mean,
take it
obviously,
from
It's a
there.
full-blown report, and he's gotta go out and put counters down or something.
Correct,
It's not gonna happen by the 18th.
correct.
Oh, well, the meeting after that,
Maybe he can just, there
Let-
has to be traffic studies out
It would
there
be
already.
Yeah,
for
there-
these other
it would be
projects.
There's traffic studies out there that they could utilize
That's what I'm
from,
hoping.
from other projects. I
From
mean,
these
they're right
other
there,
projects.
so, let's
or
just put,
January 8th, that would be the.
let's just
Move
do,
to the next one, and then if we need to continue it, we can.
yeah, we'll go to December 18th,
Okay.
and then we can update it at that point.
Okay,
And if we move it, we move it, if we don't, we don't. All right, so motion to continue Uncas Ave till December 18th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay.
Thank you.
very much.
Okay, our next item of business would be a rezone of 2 parcels on King Street. Amy, if you want to
Sure.
give us a
Thank you, Mr.
overview,
Chairman.
please.
Yep, so we have in front of us, there's 2 parcels on King Street that are currently in a residential zone, and it's been through the Economic Development Committee, who discussed about rezoning it to the business zone. We've had kind of in the letter in front of you as well that's online. It goes to the allowed rights for business. It also does special permit for business if it were to change. It did go to town council. Town council has recommended it to the planning board for recommendation back to them or not recommendation back to them. The two parcels, currently one is vacant next to the fire station, or fire station number 2 on King Street. And next to that parcel is a residential house. So they're looking to rezone 2 of the parcels. They come to a total area of 1.319 acres for those 2 parcels combined, if they were to combine them. The map, there is a map here that shows where the business, where those 2 lots are. I think the reasoning with business is there's business across the street, so keeping it consistent with non-residential in the area is the business across the street and these 2 lots being business.
So basically, this is just to move to town council for them to vote, but if
It would
if
be
they
a
approve
recommendation
it,
or not recommendation to the
Yep.
town council.
and then if anything should ever happen with it, they still have to come back to us for anything that's going on the site.
Any
anyways.
plans or any activity
Okay.
on that site would require either a site plan or a special permit and site plan if
Okay.
any activity was to happen on these 2 lots.
Just so everybody understands it, yep. Brian, I see you in the background. Could you chime in if you would like, please? I know you came all the way this way. If you don't mind.
Thank you, Chair Rondo. I appreciate your recognizing me. I was hoping to hide back there, but
You tried.
didn't get away with it. Yeah, so there have been a lot of people commenting about this change, and I think that it'd be a good opportunity to open it up to the public, obviously, in a little while, and get their input on these things. As far, I mean, it is a small area, and we do know that there have been issues in the past with that area, people trying to rezone the area. The business zone that is across the street was attempted a couple of times before it finally happened. And the location that we're talking about zoning change now has been turned down a couple of times. So I'm sure that the neighbors are going to have a lot to say about it, and they should. I don't have I think the issue came up a little while back. It's been months now, actually, probably it was midsummer or even before that, of the potential for rezoning to industrial, because the adjacent property to the south is industrial property. And I said, listen, if you're pushing commercial of some sort on that road, well, that's fine, but you don't go zoning industrial in that neighborhood. I recommend that you would go with a business zone if you're going to change it at all. So that's the reason they came back in and talked with the town administrator, who presented it to Economic Development Committee, and then they are in support in general, and they asked the whole council to consider, and now it's before you. So
Okay.
I don't have too much to say on it, other than it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't allow everything in that zone, but it does allow enough that it is a business zone, obviously.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Existing uses, there's a house there. The house doesn't have to go anywhere because the zone change, obviously.
Yep.
Existing, current uses on the land are allowed to stay as they are. One is empty, so I guess anything goes on that one. But
Okay, good. I appreciate it. Thank you. I guess we'll go to the audience first before I go to the board. Does anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? If you do, just approach the mic and just give your name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, my name's Sally Grant. I'm 660 King Street. I'm pretty much in a butter to the proposed rezoning. There's a couple things I do want to correct. The nursing home is not considered a business zone. It's considered a special residential, so it wouldn't be, this lot for rezoning wouldn't be contiguous to a, next to another business zone. And it houses residents and not, increased traffic that another commercial enterprise could. It was also mentioned that across the street is another business zone. Across the street is not another business zone. Across the street are 3 residences directly across, at least 2 to the right, 2 lots to the right and 2 lots to the left. Over by where the high power lines are and right next to 495 is where the other business zone is. So thinking about it characteristically and being in a residence, initially as it was described, it made it seem like it's fairly mixed use in that area. It's not, except for the fire station and for a nursing home, again, is not a business. It's very much a residential neighborhood. There also seems to be a little bit confusing. I heard I don't know who submit for this rezoning, but I think that should be transparent as well. So if the planning board could supply us with that, that would be great. Otherwise, it's understood that, at least in the letter I got, that Cumberland Farms is the current owner. I don't think that's true, but I do know that Cumberland Farms was the owner for about 20 years and who submit the applications before, and it would be my understanding who would again be the person or the entity business trying to develop this lot. So, of course, we come at it very much with the expectation that this will be a gas station and not a house and a nursery or something. But even if it was still commercial, that's a very, very busy street. For us, currently, the main traffic is in the morning and the evening. If you put a 24/7 or even just an early morning to evening business there that has its commercial enterprise throughout the day, the traffic pattern would significantly increase from just morning and evening to all throughout the day. And that would really significantly change. There would potentially, I think we would need to have an answer on, would there be a widening of the road if you would need to rezone this commercial, because there needs to be, I would expect, a designated left-hand turn. So I just think there's a lot of, and I know that you got my write-up, I think there's a lot of questions that commercial, whether it be a gas station or not, really need to be considered before it be allowed rezoning. To say that it's not, a lot of things can't go in, a special permit would allow almost anything to go in. So I just don't want us to go down that slippery slope and open the door until we really know that this is really feasible and it is really worth changing the character of the neighborhood. And honestly, also changing the property values of the neighborhood. And that's something I think worth considering as well. This wasn't zoned this way when most of us bought, so to change that would have a dramatic impact on, our owner rights.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, did you want to respond? Because I think I see the applicant there too. Did you want to respond to anything or not?
I don't know if I respond to anything. I mean,
Okay.
at this point, I think
Same time.
the first comment that she had about who came forward or whatever the case may be, I actually don't know exactly, but I'm assuming it's the current owner at the time. But I was not involved with the conversation.
Okay. Is the applicant out there in Zoom? I think I saw somebody from representation, or no?
I don't know if we can say there's actually, this came from Economic Development Committee to the Town Council.
Okay.
And is referred to you from the Town Council.
Okay, so we just
So
leave it
that's
at
the
that.
process that the
Okay.
town takes on any rezoning.
Okay.
Whoever asked for the application is public record?
I mean, I don't know if it is or not. It came from Economic Development in a memo.
So I think the town recommended it, and there wasn't a specific person that came forward and requested it, is what I hear Amy saying. So if there's not necessarily a person that came forward to say, I want this rezoned, or you know, I mean, I think that's a discussion past the planning board.
Yeah.
We're just getting it recommended to us from the Economic
Yeah,
Development
'cause-
Committee.
And town council.
Yeah.
So
And-
that's not knowledge that we're aware of, and I think that's more of a question for town administrator to answer, if you ask him.
Yeah, from town
Okay.
council.
Yeah, or town
Town
council,
council,
yeah.
right.
Because just bear in mind that this is just for us to move it forward back to town council when they have to vote, and then if anything materializes, that's when it
Right.
comes back to us. So there's a lot of processes in between now and the finish line that,
Correct.
Or you don't recommend it.
or you don't recommend it. Yeah. So,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? I'm sure there's
Sure.
other people in the audience that want to speak, but I'm curious.
What?
Could you just, what was your address again?
660 King Street.
660, okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody? If you want to just approach the mic, please, give your name and address.
My name's Greg DeLarco. I live at 701 King Street. And I just want to reiterate a couple things Sally said, just to emphasize them. First of all, the traffic there is unreasonable as it is. And second of all, it is residential. Now, the business stuff is down. I know where that is. And of course, there's the fire station and the nursing home. Other than that, it's residential and for a long way in a large area. So I would urge you to, possibly really think about changing this. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, everyone. Are we good?
Just give your name and address, please.
Yep. My name is Michaela Duff. That's my husband, Ian, and this is our 4-year-old daughter, Vivian. We live at 680 King Street, so kind of right next to Sally. We've been here since 2014. Ian will give the factual reasons why rezoning is probably a bad idea, but I'm here to give more of the emotional plea. Simply said, we love raising our family here. Our neighbors are fantastic. We can walk to the park, and it's convenient to get around town. It's easy to assume that King Street isn't a neighborhood because we are right next to the highway, and we do have lots of car traffic, but that couldn't be further from the truth. This street is very much community, and rezoning Tom's house is exactly what we feared when 555 King Street was approved. If you look at any other business districts in town, they look nothing like the land in question. It's easy to look at the map and see the industrial park right next door and think that this is less residential than it really is. But there are no businesses on our street, and there haven't been for 80 years. Also, my daughter does go to school in that industrial park right there, so we walk her to school on the street literally every single day. I'm all for something being built next to the firehouse, but I am terrified it's going to be a gas station or a drive-through or a bar. Please question whether this amendment would benefit, who this amendment would benefit, and vote in the best interest of Franklin. Thank you. I cede my time to my husband.
Thank you.
All right, there's a picture waiting for me back there. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ian Duff, 680 King Street. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Is this good? Okay. Evening, Chairman Rondo, evening, members of the board, evening, town staff, Brian. Hopefully you've already reviewed my submission that I think was on the agenda today. But you don't know me from Adam, right? So who am I? Like, why do I care so much? And I'll start to read because I'm way out of practice. I'm like a decade out of practice speaking publicly on an item like this. And I'm going to take about 6 minutes. I hope that's okay with others contributing their time. Thank you. So I grew up the son of a handyman, an assistant special needs teacher, bounced around apartments in several towns in southeastern Massachusetts. My wife is my high school sweetheart, and we love the community we found here in Franklin since buying our first home 9 years ago, where we still reside on King Street. Please judge my comments by my history with the 555 King Street project. I've watched the zoning and permitting. I've never come before any committees or boards to object, some NIMBY-style objection. That use for the parcels under the power lines and adjacent to the highway it makes complete sense, right? Our town staff, elected officials, reliably make thoughtful decisions on such matters. And yet, this particular amendment is wholly inappropriate. Now, you must hear that a lot, right? You volunteer your valuable time as professionals to serve our town. People say anything in opposition to changes they dislike. But please keep an open mind regarding my objections, because I would like to see the wooded parcel developed commercially. And I have suggested a solution to DBCD on a proposed zoning amendment. The current amendment is the wrong answer to the right question. Wherever you each stand on it, if you still lean in support, perhaps you think that business zoning fits the character of the site, either current or envisioned. To that, I'd say, please come walk around. We're served by the commercial district immediately across 495, and our neighborhood is entirely residences. The brand new business zone to be expanded is still trees and brush with no businesses in it. If this amendment passes, the only parallel in town, as called out by Councilor Glenn Jones, would be when the Stop and Shop Plaza expanded across the street to Old West Central Street. However, that good decision is fundamentally different. It sat on 140, and access for traffic was onto the state route and away from residences, as opposed to directly across a two-lane street, as in this case. The Old West Central Zone expansion was immediately adjacent to the highway and to busy operating businesses. Again, these conditions are not in place for 23901. Most importantly, that past change included 4 or more parcels with various owners rather than 2 under agreement with a single LLC. So my point here is, and that was publicly acknowledged by Jamie in the past, so my point here is that there is no precedent for this new amendment, either in the town's history or in the use and disposition of the surrounding parcels. A business zone allows by right too many uses that would be out of place at Tommy and Janet's house and across from Rich's home of 50 years. Hopefully Rich is on the phone. I know he has COVID right now, so he couldn't make it. Sorry, shared your PHI, Rich, if you're out there. If you are still for it and writing me off mentally as a not in my backyarder, I spoke to Joe Evans, the owner of the undeveloped parcel, as soon as I learned of this proposal. He was cagey with me, and he would not share his vision at all, saying only the highest and best use. Well, given our traffic volume, I fear that use would be the worst of the possibilities in the proposed zoning. I aim to do everything I can as a citizen to exclude those uses like fueling station and vehicular service establishment. But that being said, I want to see Mr. Evans succeed commercially in a way that supports public welfare and benefits Franklin. To that end, please see my proposed application to of the neighborhood commercial zone to the 4 SFR3 parcels nearest 495, including 2 in question tonight. The assisted living community next door, as a variance in SFR3, already fits the neighborhood commercial zone characteristics. As I said, I've submitted this to DPCD to replace this amendment with one better balanced to the needs of all stakeholders. And perhaps you still aren't swayed, right? It's 1.3 acres, it's relatively small compared to the decisions you usually make. But that's part of the problem. It's a gift to one commercial realtor. Spot zoning is a term that gets thrown around a lot, so I use it at risk of alienating you all. But to a layperson like me, this looks like textbook spot zoning. And to individuals I've consulted who knew more about land use law than I ever will, the details here paint the same picture. I just ask you to closely examine the situation for yourselves. In land court decisions like McLeod versus Swampscott, the definition of public welfare in a zoning context considers factors separate from tax or sale revenues. And I have an expert with me if you'd like. Right now, this may strike you as normal business, but for me, your recommendation tonight would be the next step towards years of wasted time and money. So please decline to recommend zoning map amendment 23901. Let an improved amendment come back to you soon. One is already pending that still achieves the revenue goals, but protects abutters. Please consider why you share your expertise with Franklin, and don't subject these long-standing neighbors to the sudden and unprecedented intrusion of business zone uses. Humbly, I know you're experts at zoning, and I'm just learning. That's my submission. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh,
Hello, my name is Christina Prococo, and I own 637 King Street. I bought the property in June of 2022. This land is directly across the street from the two parcels in question. I just wanted to say a few things. Over the last year, I've really enjoyed living on this street. I bought at this location because it was very residential. It is a very busy street. In the mornings, I wait in my driveway to pull out of my driveway and make a left turn for upwards of 5 to 10 minutes. Having this potentially be rezoned to be something like a gas station would, in my opinion, greatly impact that even more. I think this change will impact me probably the most. I'm definitely concerned about things like light pollution or sound pollution, and definitely if the possibility that it could become something like a fueling station, I'm truly concerned about the health hazards that are also associated with that. So those are all the things that I wanted to say. I'm not very great at public speaking, but I do think it's important to at least come up here and speak my piece on it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody on the board?
Yeah, question. For the planning department, do you know the two properties that are directly across the street, the one that Bill Lemon just mentioned, and then the other one next door? Is it 627 and 637? How far, do we have any idea how far those houses are from?
They're less than, I have a map I can show you.
I can measure it.
Yeah, I'm on
So we
Google
have-
Maps. The GIS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right across the street.
What kind of distance is this?
I'm looking for how far from the front of their house to the front of the property line across the street.
Front of house, property.
This is
Go back.
Google Maps, this is the lot that's
Yep.
proposed rezoning, and these are the houses across
So
the street.
637 from the home to the frontage is 105 feet.
105 feet.
To the front of the lot?
Yep.
Okay.
To the front of the lot. And then 627, 130.
Not even 100 feet.
Yeah.
It's 100 feet.
So, I don't know if you go like the corner probably, right? I was doing like center lot.
This currently zones single family 3, correct?
Yep, yep, so,
Through all these maps in all the directions, this is also wetlands.
across the street down the
Thank you.
road. Okay. They're down
So
the street.
single family
So-
3 currently allows by special permit medical or dental office use, professional use, and some zoning board variances, uses animal kennel, animal daycare. So the applicant has the ability to do something that is commercial related, I guess.
Right.
I personally don't disagree with what a lot of these abutters are saying, and my honest opinion is that it's not something I would support recommending. I know we can recommend our hearts out to say no, and it can go to town council, and they can still approve it as a zone change, so
Yeah.
I feel kind of stuck in this one, but my honest opinion is if I'm voting on it tonight, my recommendation is likely no.
Okay, I was just gonna make a recommendation to move it forward because we still have a shot at it. They still have the ability to build on it, like you were just saying. Town council still has to take a look at it, and then if anything should ever get built, they still have to come back to us too. So that would be the only reason why I would recommend moving it forward to town council for that particular reason, because they do have the ability to build on it now. So you gotta take that into consideration.
What they can build by right as in a business zoning district is very different than what they can build by right or via special permit in a single family 3 district, which would still require them to come in front of us to do anything that requires a special permit use. I mean, this is a very hard residential neighborhood. As soon as you get west of the fire station, and
I think,
it would significantly impact all the residents on the street that would continue to remain zoned in the residential district. And traffic is already a nightmare in this neighborhood, so I would not support or recommend changing the zoning of these couple parcels.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, you can certainly make the recommendation. However, I will probably not support it.
well, yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the only reason why I was gonna say is because special permit would, we'd still have a shot at controlling what goes there as well, too.
So I
Right,
think
Frank?
I'll make the
Chris
recommendation.
hold on, somebody-
Chris has his hand up?
Chris?
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Understand I don't have a vote on this tonight, given my new election. However, I'd like to echo Beth's sentiments.
No?
This is a continued, right? I don't think I have a vote.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. My concern is regardless of its use, whether it be business or current zone with a special permit, my concern is a left turn out of those lots onto what is, King and then Washington becomes a significant detriment and potential cause for concern in regards to just traffic impact and traffic accidents. So I would prefer to say residential, and if there is something that gets proposed under the current zoning, then so be it, we can work with that. But I don't like opening the door, recommending the opening of the door for anything greater than what it currently can support.
I'd be out on this one. That being said, things like daycare can go there, and that's not a bad spot for a daycare, and you're looking at the exact same problem. So everyone should just be kind of weary that.
And a full traffic study will come out of this,
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
But something like a daycare is a Dover Amendment piece, so if the daycare wants to go there, you're getting daycare, so.
And
But you could
that's
say that
super,
about any zoning district
But
in
that's,
town.
but I'm
That's
just
state.
trying to highlight that if this wants to be developed commercially, and I was
Correct.
just told that I can't put a gas station there, I'm putting a daycare in.
Yep.
Mr.
So-
Chairman, if I might. Jay, I would agree with you that, yes, daycares can go anywhere, and I think, it might, I don't live there, so I don't want to speak, saying it would be great to have a daycare versus having a gas station.
Yeah.
But I think a daycare would be more of a daytime operation
Oh, no,
than
I'm
a
not
gas
pro
station.
gas station at all. I
Yeah.
I wouldn't vote to approve this. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that if someone wants to do something commercial with that, it's
You can have
something
that
that's gonna
option.
find
You
a way.
Yeah.
you gotta be careful, because if we say no, they can come back with something that we don't have a vote against, per se. So we gotta be careful with that one, that's all.
But you
So
could
we
do-
gotta
you
be-
could
you
do
gotta
that
be
in any
ca-
zoning district.
Yeah.
Exactly, so we gotta be careful on that end, that's all. That's why I'm thinking if we move it forward, we still have a bite at what can go there in the constraints of it.
Having
That's
a
just
bite at
my
a gas station's a lot different than having a
No,
bite at
no,
a-
no, it's just
Yeah.
different business, whatever it may be. And
Make the motion then to recommend to town council the zoning change.
do I hear a second? All in favor?
No.
Oh, aye.
No.
Yeah. So
Okay.
recommendation, it's not to recommend then.
Nope, so not to recommend.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I'm attempting to speak, and I seem to have got.
Oh, sorry. It's hard to keep
Right.
track of the Zoom.
Yeah, I didn't see your hand up, sorry about that.
I see there's apparently a way to raise your hand on Zoom, but I can't find that option on here. So I'd like to just introduce myself as Joe Evans. I own the property at 634 King Street. I purchased it from Cumberland Farms back in September, along with my partner Dusty Burke, who's also on the call. I'm a lifelong Franklin resident, educated in Franklin Public Schools. I'm a former Franklin police officer from the late 90s. I subsequently left Franklin PD, went to the state police, and I've since retired. I own East Coast Driving School in Franklin, owned it since 2010, founded it, and I also developed the Santa Fe Burrito Grill site, the former Friendlies at 28 West Central Street. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I saw where the meeting was going, and I felt that I ought to pipe in here a little bit. I want to point out that this site is next to the Franklin Fire Department. It's zoned, that site is zoned industrial. And it was this particular site at 634 King Street, and I believe also the abutting property and the city property was formerly zoned industrial back years ago. And for whatever reason, there was a rezone done. And I believe the rezone was done in order to build a single-family home, with probably a lot less discussion than what we're hearing tonight. We are several hundred feet from the interchange of 495, and we have a 255,000 square foot warehouse that's going to be built across the street. So I'd like to, let's keep the focus here on the area. I understand that there are residents that live on the street, of course, across the street and down the street. But let's keep the focus on this particular parcel and how it relates to the surrounding area. It abuts industrial property to the east, the fire station, and it abuts industrial property to the south, Dell EMC. With that being said, I don't have any particular plans for this site. I bought the site. I think it's a good site near the highway. We certainly would ask for your support. And I think that we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I've heard a lot of talk about different uses and noxious uses, but I don't think this hearing is appropriate to get ahead of ourselves and talk about what could go there. Therefore, we are not going to recommend a rezone. I think we need to understand that the Economic Development Committee, made up of 4 members of the Town Council, recommended this particular rezone. They recommended it unanimously, and the Town Council unanimously recommended to send it to the Planning Board. So I think. Again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, and I don't think it's appropriate at this level to get ahead of ourselves. There is a public benefit into this site being rezoned. We live in a city, and there is a demand yearly, as we know, for tax revenue to support our public safety, our schools, and town administration. And if there was a better site in town to rezone, I'd love to know where it is.
Okay.
Because this site is certainly not a residential site. Nobody is going to build a single-family home next to a fire station.
There's a residence on the site.
Okay. So, thank you, Joe. Amy, where we already voted out.
You voted, did you close the hearing?
We didn't.
Make a motion to close
Okay.
the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll just restate what I said before. Make a motion to recommend to town council the zoning bylaw recommended change.
Yes?
No.
No.
Okay.
For the reasons that this directly, although it is near on a map, other zoning districts, such as business or industrial, the access to those sites are not in this exact proximity, and the access to this particular site is directly across from and next to residential parcels, and in my opinion should remain that way for multiple reasons that I stated previously.
Okay, so I have a question for Amy. Can this be brought back in a future date if they,
If town council recommends it to come back.
okay. All right.
Anyway, it
Just-
comes
yeah,
back on.
Just wanted to be,
Yeah.
for-
But this goes straight to town council,
And if they
and
came-
then they'll be having public hearings on it.
yep, and if they came back with a specific business on the site, maybe that would be beneficial rather than just open game. What are your thoughts?
So this is not about a specific business, this
Okay.
is about the zoning district.
Yep, I'm just
So I
asking.
think the
That's
only
all.
way that it would come back if it came back at a different zoning district.
Okay,
It's not gonna be a specific use, it's gonna be a zoning district,
okay.
if,
all right.
if they came
Yeah.
back.
Next steps are it goes to town council, and ultimately town council can choose to not take our recommendation
Or take it.
or take it.
Or take it.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you,
you.
Brian. Okay. All right.
Will the public have an opportunity to speak at town council?
Yes,
The
actually.
the
Amy,
public will have an opportunity to speak at town council.
This is going back to town council, everybody.
So the ultimate voter is
This
by
is
the
going
town
back to town
council.
council too, so just keep an eye out. Just because this board said no, doesn't mean town council's gonna say no. This is going back to council. Our recommendation went back based on the board's decision. So it's going back to town council. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted them to be aware.
Yeah, no, because they'll dot it out, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next.
Yep. Okay. So our next public hearing is a site plan modification for 10 Kenwood Circle, and I understand you're looking for continuation?
They are, Mr. Chairman. They requested to be on December 18th.
Okay?
Okay.
So make a motion to continue site plan modification of 10 Kenwood Circle till December 18th. There's a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our next item of business would be a continuation of the Maplegate Solar South, and I believe we're gonna get an update if somebody is representing Maplegate South.
Yeah, how's everybody doing? It's Greg DeBono with Bowler Online here.
Guess you're gonna give us a brief update, Greg?
Yeah, is everybody able to hear me?
Yeah.
Good to see you all again. Thanks, I'll keep this brief. I just want to give an update because it's been a little while since we've been in front of you guys and telling you where we are. The project continues to move forward. We've been having actually several meetings over with Bellingham as well to go through their planning board review process, and the application, the same documents have been submitted for Conservation Commission review here in Franklin, as well as Conservation Commission review in Bellingham. So tonight, it was really just to make sure that the board was aware that we didn't go anywhere. We're still moving forward. We believe we're making good progress, and but with the acknowledgement that we won't be in front of Conservation Commission until I believe it's December 14th is the first meeting. So to be respectful of everybody's time, we don't really expect to be continued until likely sometime in January, which is something I had briefly discussed with Amy, and I think that would make sense because we want to make sure that we get all the reviews and the comments addressed satisfactorily and to the point where we can then come back to the board and show you that we've made the changes and recommendations that were put forth by your professional team, but also by Conservation Commission. So the plans themselves are pretty much in a very similar state as they were when we filed them a couple months back. We did make some minor modifications to the utility poles and the clearing that are right along the Maple Street frontage piece, which is part of the Bellingham lot. But all those improvements were really for the better. We made the amount of tree clearing less. We reduced from 4 utility poles down to 2. So the overall impact and the look as you currently drive down Maple Street, it's going to be even less impactful than what we were originally proposing. So I really just wanted to be here tonight just to say that, to ask formally for a continuation to some other meeting in January, but also just be here as an opportunity in case there were any questions or comments from the board, anything that had come up, any thoughts, relative to something that we should be following up on or looking into, besides just addressing the first round of peer review comments.
Okay, good, thank you. I guess we'll go to Amy. Any comments, questions? I know that it's still in due process, so we
Still in
just
process, just
Yep.
waiting for the
make a
new information.
recommendation to, what do you want to do, January 8th or 22nd for continuation?
Either date is open, I guess I don't know, it depends.
Concom's what,
right.
December 20-something?
18th, I think.
18th, so it's going to take a little bit of
14th.
time.
The 14th, so I don't know if you'd have stuff to us by the 8th, I know the holidays come up, or would you rather the 22nd? I mean, we couldn't do the 8th if it's available.
Yeah,
whatever.
I feel like we'll probably have some, I guess, hopefully noteworthy updates to share by then. So I think I'd like to try to get us on for the 8th. And of course, if something changes, or if it delays because of things that occur in December, I think we would definitely reach out, Amy, and maybe be willing to move it to whatever date makes sense.
Okay. Audience, or no? No? Anybody in the audience have any comment, question in reference to it? No? Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue Maplegate Solar South till January 8th, 2024.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful holiday. We'll be talking with you soon.
Thank you,
Thanks.
you too. Wow, 24. Okay, and then we'll go to our last public hearing, which would be for a site plan modification for 3 Fisher Street. If you would like to approach the mic and introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Craig Chekanowski, representing the applicant. With me this evening is Rick Kaplan, Casey Killam, principals of the applicant, and Dan Campbell, the project engineer.
Okay. So do you want to, I'll go to, I'll circle through department first, and then we'll circle back to you. Amy, if you want to give a briefing, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of some of my other comments from the first meeting was to provide the outdoor lighting and open space and snow storage, but they have the locations, guys, of proposed sketches of all the designs, which they did, landscaping plan, which they have included in their site. Some comments from the last meeting they were in front of us was September 8th. If fire reviewed it, which I have provided a letter for that. They wanted, the board had asked for truck turning and internal traffic pattern for the trucks. The applicant has provided that. The dumpster pads are also marked in the plan. And I know that we had the stacked parking on the site, but that parking has been since reconfigured.
Okay. I apologize, but I don't have fire department's letter.
You don't?
No. What's, is it in favor?
They were all set with it.
They were all set with everything?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so then I'll just move forward to Mike from DPW. Mike, if you want to give a...
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of my previous comments had to do with the proposed catch basin in the area where there of the 3 parking spaces on the northeast side of Building 5. Just questioning how that was connected to the, where that was being connected to. They had responded, the applicant responded that it was connected to the existing 24-inch that's on site that's going to be treated. And it just wasn't clear on the existing conditions plan how that was all tied in. So I just wanted to verify that they know that it does in fact, that they dye tested it or cambered the pipe just to make sure it does in fact connect there. So that was just one question I had follow up on. And then the other item was just the, with the modified design, it does result in an overall reduction in impervious area, but where it is still redevelopment, it still needs to meet the town stormwater bylaw related to redevelopment design criteria. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay. And do we meet the criteria for this?
Right now, no, they don't show anything as far as the infiltration. They need to, the criteria has to do for redevelopment projects is either retain an 0.8 of an inch of the over the impervious surfaces on site or meet TSS reduction in combination with phosphorus reduction. So I just did present that in the drainage calculations to show that how they meet one way or the other.
Okay. And I guess we'll go to Gary from Beta. Gary, if you wanna chime in, please.
Sure.
Sit there all night, now you get to speak.
Finally. Yes, well, it's been a while since we took a look at this, and we did have a meeting with the designers as part of this. But a couple of things. First thing was the parking spaces along Fisher Street itself. There's still a waiver required associated with the two spaces. And part of this was when they originally were doing it, there were 12 spaces. And I think, that's something that I think the planning board should probably take another good hard look at. And it's not going to result in any additional cost. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, there'll be actually a reduction in the overall construction cost. You can eliminate that retaining wall.
Probably help the site, actually.
It would help the site, yeah. Yeah, and it actually help some of the construction costs. There's the 3 spaces that are right there to the right of 7, I believe is it 3 or? 3, yeah, 3 on the backside of 3, where there's only a 13-foot wide access path going back to them.
Okay.
If you look at that space, there's about 3,300 square feet of pavement proposed in association with that, and they only need to get 3 spaces in there. I think that if they take a good hard look at it, they can eliminate the requirement for the waiver.
Okay.
Take another shot at it and eliminate, because right now there's only a 13-foot wide access point. And, they talked about the reduction on the 24 feet, but that's only at the back side of the spaces. The access way itself is only 13 feet wide,
Okay.
so that was another waiver that I'm not sure they really needed. I think they could just rearrange some of those spaces.
Okay.
Thirdly, I agree with Mike. This issue in terms of compliance with the requirements under the bylaw for stormwater improvements, especially associated with redevelopment. They've got to look at the issues associated with the MS4 and look at the issues associated with the bylaw, rather than go through all the technical comments. But basically, yeah, they've got to come up with some form of an infiltration system to be able to provide the overall phosphate removal associated with the requirements.
Okay.
Other than that, as Amy did state, they did.
Cleaned up quite a bit.
Yeah, they cleaned up
more
quite a bit.
things to peck at, but it's pretty
Yeah.
close now, though, right? Okay, well, thank you, Gary. I guess I'll go to the applicant. You agree with Mike and Gary on what he's recommending clean up so we can get this thing cleaned up? Drainage analysis and whatnot.
Dan, do you want to comment on those?
Sure.
Respond to Mike and Gary. I think you based on the previous shopping list, you knocked off quite a bit, so it's a good thing.
Sure.
It sounds like we got a couple loose items left now.
There's a few we'd like to discuss with the board. Dan Campbell, Level Design Group, on behalf of the applicant. So I guess I'll go to the site plan instead of our existing cleanup plan. The areas that we're discussing having to do with drainage basically are compliance issues, and I did write some information having to do with how the site was overall complying with phosphorus removal. We understand that we're a little bit less than we're supposed to be, but we're also attempting to treat the town's drainage system that comes across the site. I know we talked about this during our initial site plan approval, that we have 3 drain lines from the town, not inside of town easements, that come to this property. We have a 36-inch line, a 24-inch line, and a 15-inch line from Fisher Street, all of which drain to the property. So what we're trying to do, and what we discussed during the first site plan approval, was treating the 24-inch line at the front of the site and our new development having to do with TSS. There was some infiltration associated with an additional parking lot that then had capacity to infiltrate the remainder. As a trade-off to the fact that we no longer have the infiltration, we installed a second treatment unit at this location to treat the town drainage as it was coming off Fisher Street. So there's two ways to look at it. Whether or not we fully comply with the drainage, which we did and we didn't in the first site plan approval, or whether or not we are assisting the town in their MS4 to start with by treating the town's discharge onto the property. We took the latter, because that was the conversation we had with the town during the first application. But we certainly can pull that back and just treat the storm drainage on property rather than treating the drainage that comes onto the property, which will be a less expensive option for the applicant, though it'll provide more structures, unfortunately, for the applicant. I don't think that's necessarily the direction we want to go, unless we have to.
Mike, your comments on that, or Gary, what are your thoughts? If they're trying to treat some of the,
Sure, in the original proposal, there are some drain lines that run through the property, and we did work through that in the first version of that. I would just need to discuss it a little bit with the DPW director and the town attorney, make sure that we're meeting the bylaw in one form or another. So before I spoke, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Absolutely.
yeah, because if he, I just want to make sure if he's trying to take care of some of the drainage that we own per se, we got to make sure.
How large an area is that, Dan?
The drainage area we're talking about is greater than 30 acres, a little less than 50 acres, depending on what drains there and how. Everything that comes off the cemetery is now being treated, as well as Fisher Street itself. So certainly a conversation you and I could have, I'd love to be involved with.
Yes.
As far as the parking spaces go, the two areas in question, the two areas in question are the driveway here. The driveway itself doesn't actually require a waiver. In the town bylaw, there is a driveway associated with parking spaces or adjacent to, which is why my response said 19.7 from 24 is actually the waiver we're looking for. The width of the 13-foot wide driveway isn't actually a bylaw requirement. The bylaw only requires the 24-foot width at a parking space. So we were looking at 19.7 for the handicap spaces. We did run the turning movements. We know that the cars can get in and out. It is only 3 parking spaces on a dead end. It's specifically so that we can have the handicap closest to the handicap accessible door. We can certainly move those spaces, as I put in my response letter, we can move those spaces to either the 2 spaces we were talking about from a waiver standpoint, or we can move them to the 2 spaces to the other side. It makes us comply with handicap access a little bit less than we are today. We're trying to get them at the closest point possible. And then the waiver location is just those 2 spaces.
Okay. Gary, what are your thoughts of those 2 spaces?
The ones closest to Fisher Street?
Yeah. I mean, we want to make sure the handicap spaces are close to the
I mean, if they're
building,
gonna
but if
change
there's
it
some
into
leeway.
HP spaces, or if they're gonna get rid of the other ones and provide the open spaces adjacent to the building, then I don't have any issues with that. But as I made stated to Amy, I hate to give you a recommendation that a waiver be granted.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
I'm a little hesitant to make any type of a recommendation.
yeah, I just want to make sure if you think, if we move them around, if it's not work function-wise for the accessibility.
To me,
so.
the HP spaces, you could turn them 90, or you could turn them, there's plenty of space back there for you to be able to fool around with them, to be able to come up with a way to be able to access those.
Okay. Is that something you can work on, Dan, to try to keep it really close to the building?
So they can't stay where they are. Even if I turn them 90, then there's an interaction between the spaces and that loading dock that's right there. I no longer have a green space between the 2.
So where would the next spaces, if those are deleted,
So if
would
these were
you be able to open it
Sure.
up? Would you be able to take that bit of a pie-shaped island and expand that left side to put the spaces closer, possibly?
What would
Yep.
happen is they would end up being here.
Could you bump
That-
into that green space where your pen was right there?
In
And then,
here?
yeah, and then just turn around and make the other parking spots a green space? So just take a little swap it?
So we can certainly move it over slightly. It's, again, we're trying to, if you look at that truck turning, we're trying to control that truck backing in there and that truck pulling out there a little bit, which is why we've got the access aisles that we do. Certainly, we can move them over slightly, but they are going to end up being somewhat in this area, not in this area over here. We're gonna move them about 50 feet away.
Through the chair, real quick, where, can you just remind me where the accessible entrance is related to those handicap spots?
Right there.
So it is on the back side of that?
There are two accessible entrances to that building. That is one, and the other one is in this location.
At the other end, yeah.
And is the building subdivided? Meaning, are there multiple tenants in that building, remind me? Or is it all one tenant with one main entrance, but that's kind of the service entrance?
That is a service entrance, but it has been asked to be accessible
Okay.
for the applicant.
Okay.
And if the space was broken up by building code, they'd still have to provide.
Which is actually a point Gary made that we wanted to go over. Certainly, if the spaces are divided up differently, we will come back with different handicap access and things of that nature.
So I would say just work with Gary on just the rearrangement of those couple spaces, if you can make it work. Work on the balance of the drainage with Mike and DPW. And did I miss anything?
Mr. Chairman, just asking what your feel is on whether you want them to work on this through a continuance, or whether this is something, if you close the hearing, you can vote on as a condition.
I want to make sure the drainage is squared away first. That one's a little slippery. I'd like to continue it to the next meeting, and then you conversation, as long as we get a thumbs up from Mike's side.
The one thing I can offer, if you wanted to vote on it this evening, is as long as Gary and Mike know what it is, our only other option for treatment of phosphorus, if we were required to do it, would be what's called a jellyfish filter. And we would put that in the new construction portion of our development. That removes phosphorus by itself. It's certified to up to 80% with maintenance, and that would be the only change to the site plans if the TSS removal didn't go the way we were hoping with Mike.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one more question?
Sure.
For you, over here to Mike and Gary. Do you feel that the items that you're being asked to look at as far as drainage are concerned are something that can be handled after the close of public hearing without major changes to a plan, or do you feel you want time to review it and come back to us with comments? What is your comfort level, I guess I'm asking?
If the board would close and vote tonight and just made that as a condition, it'd be a matter of if we agreed whether the current TSS removal was adequate to meet the bylaw. If not, it would have to be a modified design to the site plan that they could do, but we could still review that. Outside of that, it'd be sort of an infrastructure type modification as far as whatever's on site. We could probably work through that.
So do you feel that that's something that's a reasonable, you can make a reasonable solution, it can be resolved? Or is there a chance that, you know, this, you know, if the hearing got closed, you voted on it and made that a condition, and then all of a sudden, no, we need to come back for a modification again?
I think if we were in disagreement and the modification be a more advanced drainage system where there was more infiltration, they could still design that, we could still review that and make that a change on the final plans necessarily. I don't know if the board would have a concern as far as what that actually looked like structurally underground necessarily, as long as the board was satisfied that we were satisfied.
My personal opinion is that I think that the applicant and the engineers can work it out as a condition of approval, but again, as I always say, I'm one person.
No, I agree. It sounds like there just needs to be agreement between the town and the applicant about how we're showing that we're meeting that MS4, right? And so that could be a condition of approval, that must be met through the agreement that the town and the applicant can come to.
Like prior to an
Right,
enforcement.
right.
In the handicap spaces. How about you, Jay? How do you feel? I don't want to leave too much on the table and then have it come back and backfire. That's all I'm getting to. I'd like to clean up the loose ends if it was possible.
Yeah, I'm kind of more looking to clean up loose ends.
Yeah, I would just like to make sure that we're all set with Mike and DPW and Gary first. We'll just put you on the agenda, we'll just continue it for 2 weeks, and then that way there, you'll have all the answers resolved, and then we'll close it at that point. And if, that being said, if we close it, then we'll vote on it that night, because in fairness, we're pushing it, but we want to make sure all the information's there.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I think what you've heard from the engineer, though, is that we can comply. It's just that it would be compliance without the town's lines being treated. So we can, as Dan said, we can design this plan or redesign this plan to comply with the comments that have been made. So I think you could close the hearing and vote, knowing that we can design the plan. You could require us to comply, subject to an agreement with the town.
Yeah, I don't want it to fall apart and you have to come back with a redesign and spend more money later with something by us closing it and voting it tonight. That's my point. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that, and that's why I keep looking at Mike for that. I just want to make sure we do the right thing, that's all.
Our only fear is we keep coming back and we come up with another issue.
Well, no,
I mean, if
these are the last two issues and nobody else has any issues, and Chris, out there, but, get the parking squared away, get the drainage squared away, we'll close it and we'll vote on it that night, because I want to make sure that's resolved, that's all. And you guys can work it out, fine by me, and we'll just close and vote that night. That way that we don't lose any additional time. Because if we close tonight, you're still not going to get a vote till the next one anyway, so.
But we are closed, and we
But
get a
if you
vote,
get-
and as we've indicated, we can comply. We can.
I just want to make sure DPW is all set though.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is we can redesign what you see there tonight in a way that fully complies with all those comments. So if the board were to vote and require compliance, subject to an agreement between the town and the applicant, we're right where you would want to be by continuing the hearing. So I feel as if what we're giving you this evening, we've made clear that we can design this plan to be totally compliant with the comments from Beta and from the town engineer. It's just that we will have to remove the treatment of the town's lines, the 3 town lines that are going through the property, which is not any of our runoff.
Okay.
So if the board wanted to vote a condition that we comply that way, subject to an agreement, then that issue is addressed.
Correct. Yeah, I don't know. That's just me. We'll just make the condition that we'll close and vote the same night, that's all. So it's whether it close tonight and vote next meeting, doesn't matter.
Mr. Chairman,
So I just want to make sure Mike and DPW square away, that's all. I just want to make sure
But as long as it's a condition of the approval, they'd be required to get it squared away
I
before
feel
it was
as though we're
endorsed.
kind of, as Attorney Chekanowski said, kind of doing the same thing we would do the next meeting that we would do tonight. So I'm not sure what the point of continuing is if we can get a condition that says, that's just my opinion. I'm
You're
hearing from
comfortable with
the
it?
town engineer
Okay.
that they can do it, so.
I just want to make sure Mike's comfortable. Amy, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't see an issue with closing tonight. I think if you want to vote at the next meeting, let them talk, come up with the specific conditions
Yeah.
that need to be put in, and have that ready at the next meeting to vote on. And
We'd be
if
doing
a
the same
waiver
thing
is
if we
needed.
closed next week and voted the same
So-
night. Doesn't matter. I just want to make
I
sure those
don't,
loose
yeah, I
ends are
don't
cleaned
necessarily
up.
see an issue with
Okay.
closing it. I think it'd be nice to
Jay, you
have
good
time
with
to
that?
type up the specific conditions.
Okay.
Yep.
And agreements to have ready at the next meeting.
So make a motion to close the public hearing?
You're gonna be able to find some sort of compliance on our moving target, which is compliance right now? That works.
So we make a motion to close the public hearing for 3 Fisher Street.
Yeah, 5 Fisher Street. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we make a motion.
No more motions.
We'll
Oh,
vote next
no.
time. We'll vote next
Oh,
time.
all right, we'll vote the next time, okay. I was gonna
Thank you.
make conditions, sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. I just want to put the conditions in right, that's all.
May make
So-
them,
I just want to say one thing really
Oh,
quick
okay.
before you, just general business. I just want to say congratulations to Jay coming from the associate member to a full-time member now.
Thank you.
And welcome aboard, Chris. Chris is a new member.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to have a good team up here, and appreciate everybody's volunteering the next 4 years. It's a great thing for not getting paid. So,
Wait a second, I'll get paid.
congrats, guys.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
That's all.
So I guess make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call vote. Greg Rondo,
Aye.
Beth Berling,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Okay, thank you. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving.